This is another video brought to you by the Ichiban Productions. Like, comment, subscribe. So welcome everyone, happy days are here again. My goodness, I've got a mega review for you today. It's finally here after all this time. It's time for us to have a look at a Steam Deck by Valve. I have had this ordered since April, and my goodness, it's finally arrived. It is officially September the 20th. Oh, what a day, mark it in the books. So I went for the 64 gig model at 350 quid. I didn't think it was worth it for the extra storage space and the extra mega deluxe one with the special glass on it and things like that. No. I went for this because I've done the research and it says that playing games on the Steam Deck really aren't that affected by having a higher powered SSD as opposed to a decent micro SD card. So 64 gig was it for me. Let's find out, was it worth the money? Was it worth the wait? I cannot tell you how excited I am. Taking a look at the outside of the box is exactly how it was delivered. On the other side is my delivery address and stuff like that, so I'm not going to reveal that to you. However, I know that Steam decks have been notorious for being nicked in the post. So I was thinking, are they discreet? You know, will you know what this is by looking at it? And then I saw the side and I actually thought, if you have any idea about gaming and stuff, it's a massive giveaway. First of all, that's the Steam Deck symbol, and that, my friends, is a companion cube, so you clearly know what's in here. Luckily mine wasn't stolen. It came all the way from the Netherlands. It took about 2 weeks from paying to delivery. Goodness me, let's crack it open and see what's inside. I have cut the sellotape and we're ready to see what's inside, so here we go. Dang. And there we go, that's the inside. We've got ourselves some attention to detail. So what do we need to do? We need to plug it in and power it on. Good advice, Valve, but what's underneath? So I hear it comes in a box and a case. Let's have a look. Oh, your games are going places. You're damn right it is. So what's inside this box? I think this is going to be the power adapter. So let's have a look. Oh, it's sealed as well. You know what I'm going to need to do? Let's cut that open and have a look. But cheeky companion cube. Just before we have a look at the power brick, we've got ourselves some instructions here. Let's cover it up. So there we go. We got ourselves the Steam button, brings up the side menu. The 3 dots brings up the other menu when we plug the micro SD underneath. I got a 1 terabyte one of those, so I'll let you know how I'll get on with that. But it's time to look at the power adapter. USB-C, I know it is, but let's have a look at the UK one. I don't think I've ever seen a UK one. Ooh, pretty nice and compact, eh? Nice. So we've got standard 3-pin adapter, not too big at all. And that's really impressive. Now, I understand this is a 45 watt adapter. Does it say that on here? Yep, 45 watts. I don't know if you can read that. And therefore it goes to USB-C to plug in and charge. So the deck needs 45 watts. If you're going to use accessories or USB-C hubs, you're going to need more power than that, because you're going to need to power the hub and the deck. But 45 watts, that'll suit you fine. So one last thing before we actually check out the deck itself, that was the instruction manuals that was inside the power adapter thing. It's all just your warnings and regulatory stuff. I mean, it's standard stuff. We're not reading that. There's way too much information in there. So it's the moment we've all been waiting for. Ooh, that's heavier than expected. That was a surprise. So what we've got here is we've got the deck itself. So the time is now. Let's check it out. I cannot even describe to you how excited I am about this. So first thing we need to do is we need to take off the plastic bag that goes around it. Let's remove that. And we got ourselves our case designed by Valve Corporation over here. Lovely sort of hologram there. Steam Deck there. And turning it over, we've got ourselves some more details. Requires a Wi-Fi connection. Pause it, read it if you want. Let's remove that. And there we go. It's the first glimpses of the case itself. My understanding is if you went for the more expensive model, that's got a bit of colour on it. But trust me, grey is fine for me for saving 200 quid. So let's crack it open and see the deck in person. A nice little touch that I've seen here is that the two little zip pullers, I mean there's got to be a word for that, is sealed to prove that the unit is sealed here. So you're going to need to cut it to open it. And click. There we go. It's been cut. It's been opened. I do like that already because perhaps, you know, you could seal that if you were going abroad and you wanted to protect it maybe. So the case, very, very solid. Very, very solid. Little carrying handle on the top. And underneath you've got this extra bit of elastic. Now I've seen some people online try and put things in there, like a charger and stuff. I don't know how well that's going to go. You know, we'll have a look at that in more detail later on. But here we go. It's the moment of truth. Let's open it up. For the more astute viewers, you may have seen a cable come into view there. Sorry about that. I'm just so excited to open it, get crack-a-lacking. I can't be bothered to film that again. So here we go. We are unzipping it. Opening it up. Oh, there it is. Oh, I cannot even describe to you the feeling of seeing the Steam Deck for the first time. After all this time, it's my Steam Deck. It's all mine. Taking a quick look at the device here. Lifting it up. Oh. It is definitely heavier than a Switch, but I must say the ergonomics, check out that word, the hand grips on the back are really good, really good. I'm surprised by that. That was really comfortable. So we've got the back buttons there, you know all about that. Ooh, pretty clicky. I like that. That's better than I was expecting. I was expecting it to be quite spongy. We've got the trigger buttons, nice bit of sponge on those, clicky shoulder buttons. Ooh, really nice joysticks, really nice. Face buttons here, again, really good buttons. We've got our track pads that are also, I think they vibrate or so here. And we've got the two main buttons as shown in the documentation. On the top, we've got USB-C. We've got the exit exhaust for the fan. Headphone socket over there, volume up, volume down. On the bottom, we've got the micro USB port. Not micro USB, a micro SD port for expanding your internal memory. And then on the back, the only thing there to mention is that's the in for the exhaust. So if you're going to cover it or something, don't do that because that's going to stop it breathing. It's going to overheat. So make sure that that has got fresh air to it at all times. It's got a little thing to lift it up as well. And there's me being funny, you know, getting my grubby hands all over it. Lifts up. Valve, you've literally thought about everything. So with that in mind, I'm going to leave the video here for the moment. I'm going to need to plug it in, charge it to 100%, set it all up. I'm going to need to use it for a while because I need to give you my honest opinions. I'm not just going to say 10 out of 10 before we even used it. So I'm going to return in maybe a week or so to give you my opinions, tips and tricks. I've got loads of videos planned around the Steam Deck. I am super excited. So for you, it's going to be a matter of seconds. For me, it'll be a couple of weeks. Stick around. Let me tell you all about it. And I'm back. Like I said, I'll be back. It's about a week later. I literally couldn't wait to finish this video. I've got loads of thoughts, loads of opinions. I can't wait to tell you all about it. To clarify before we start, there is no way I'm putting a star rating on this. It is far too early to give a thorough judgment. But what I will do is give you my initial impressions, my thoughts, and some comparisons to the Switch. To start, I absolutely love the form factor here. The buttons and the controls are absolutely superb. You'd be surprised how comfortable it is. It is much heavier than the Switch, but it is super comfy. I haven't really used the trackpads yet. I did try and use this in desktop mode as a mouse, but it was really unsuccessful. There's a big difference between playing this in like gaming mode and desktop mode. One of them they spend a lot of time on. I think desktop mode needs some more work. In comparison to the Switch, let me just bring it into shot here. You can see the form factor difference here. Obviously, the sides don't detach like the Switch. This is the OLED version, so hands down, the OLED screen on this is far superior to the Steam Deck. But the Steam Deck screen is no slouch at all. I do think the Steam Deck screen is something to shout home about. It is good quality. I haven't noticed any negatives about the screen, but it certainly is no good compared to the OLED. The size of it, again, this is much smaller, but this is way more comfortable because of the curved grips at the back. So in terms of the Switch versus the Steam Deck, I'm going to have to go for the Switch for the screen, but the Steam Deck about the form factor all round. I mean, the joysticks are significantly better than these. This is definitely a more comfortable, usable console, I would say. The other big difference I think we really need to drive home is obviously the Steam Deck is way more powerful, but when choosing between the two, you basically got to make a decision. If you want hassle-free gaming with no issues whatsoever, you're going to need to go for the Switch. It just works. You plug in the cartridge, it just plays, it goes, there's no issues. Whereas the Steam Deck, you've really got to consider this to be like a portable PC. You're going to have to edit settings, mess with frame rates, graphic settings and stuff to get it set up perfectly. So it depends. If you're a tinkerer, this is a much more powerful console. You get better graphics, better frame rate, but you're going to take some work to get it to to the standard you probably want it to be, whereas the Switch just works. Something to consider. One final comparison between the two before we move on and show you more about the Steam Deck is in terms of the price of the games. Now this, I think this beats the Nintendo Switch hands down in terms of value for money for games. The Steam store is constantly having sales. You've got AAA games at a fraction of the price of retail, whereas for Switch, you're paying the Switch tax. You're going to pay a lot more for games on Nintendo Switch than you will on the Steam Deck. So if you're looking for value for money for games, it's going to need to be the Steam Deck. I was quite surprised when I actually turned this bad boy on about how many games I had already. Now, I've been buying from the Humble Bundle for ages, and I've also been buying from Fanatical, if you've ever heard of it. It does bundle games for cheaps. I mean, the last lot of games I think I got 7 games for about £3, £4. It's crazy good value, so you can get us plenty of games. So here we go, this is gaming mode. It operates pretty much as you would expect. You go across here to choose the game you want. However, it's probably much easier if you go to your library and you can see what's there. You've got loads of games, and it separates it into great on the Steam Deck, all the games, what you've got installed, and non-Steam. Just because it's not great on Steam Deck, for example, the little I means that it will play, but there might be some issues. It doesn't necessarily mean that it won't play. So please don't be put off by that. It doesn't have to necessarily be 100% Steam Deck compatible. For example, that one says it doesn't play. However, it might play. You've just got to download it and try. I'm trying to find. So yeah, the green tick there means that it will play, whereas the I means it may or may not play. Ultimately, I've not found a game that doesn't work on it yet. Generally, it's ones where the text is so small it's unreadable, or it's got some sort of online components to stop you from cheating online. But overall, I've been really impressed with the library so far. Hopefully you can see this now. I swapped to desktop mode, and this basically operates like every desktop you've ever seen. There's a start in the corner, you can web browse, you can download extra apps and stuff like this. It does operate just as you'd expect in terms of a desktop. That operates as a mouse. Click it down to double click. Again, there's so much customization, but one thing I will say is the onboard keyboard is terrible. How do I bring that up? I think it's Steam and B, is it? No, Steam and X. Ooh. Yep, there we go. On-screen keyboard. It's slow to come up. I think it's fairly unresponsive, especially when typing. Good lord, look at it. And then to get rid of it, sometimes it goes, sometimes it doesn't go. Overall, I'm not overly impressed with this. I would highly recommend you use a Bluetooth keyboard and mouse to operate desktop mode. I'll show you some accessories I'm using with the Steam Deck in a different video, because this will go on forever otherwise. But yes, you can do word processing, you could do Excel spreadsheets if you really want, but it won't be Excel, it needs to be a Linux based program, and you can browse the internet. Again, it operates as you like, exactly as a desktop, but to swap back to gaming mode, you double click that. Double click. Oh my goodness. And it's moved and everything. See what I mean? See how fiddly it is in desktop mode? Double click, and there we go. It swaps back to gaming mode. It'll take a second to load. It's not instantaneous, you know, it's not going to swap back and forth instantly, but it will boot back and forth. It's just something you've got to consider with this. It's not an instantaneous thing. Ooh, verifying installation. Nice. And slowly it's going to load, and then you're back in gaming mode. Generally, if you're going to be doing gaming mode's the way to go. So let's load up a game you probably don't think would work on the Steam Deck, just to prove to you that it will. So we're going to load a bit of Cyberpunk. So I've clicked into the game to start with, and then it brings up with this menu here. I just wanted to point out a few things. One, it says it's an I. It's not Steam Deck verified, but it does work perfectly fine. It just means it's got an internal launcher. It does work. One of the nice things here for all games is it will sync your cloud game, your Steam cloud save from your PC to your deck and back and forward, which means you can swap from your deck to PC with no issues. Cyberpunk, on the other hand, has got cloud saves anyway, so if you're playing it on the console like an Xbox or a PlayStation, and assuming you've got your logins for Cyberpunk's CD Projekt Red's account set up, it will automatically upload to the cloud, so you can pick it up anywhere. So I'm currently swapping between saves between my Xbox Series X and Cyberpunk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click play, I'm going to skip the loading menus, I'm going to show you it working in action. Here we are at the main menu. I mean, one thing I did want to point out and say super important if you're going to be messing around with the Steam Deck, not like the Switch where you just plug in and play, you're going to have to mess around with the settings. So let's go to A, and then let's go across to graphics. Now, what I think is really nice is that some developers are taking advantage and saying and suggesting a Steam Deck graphics setting. You get the full fat PC graphics setting, so you can mess around with it to your heart's content. I mean, you can scroll down and see all these things you can mess around with here. Again, some games recommend Steam Deck settings, but I would highly recommend Googling it to make sure you're getting the most out of it. In the top corner, I've got the 30. It's telling me what 30 frames per second is. That's not built into the game. That's through the deck itself. So going to the quick menu, which is that button there, we can change the audio, you know, all that sort of stuff. But the thing you'll be interested in is if you go to battery, what it does do is it tells you how much battery you got left, the time that's remaining, and then you can start messing around with things to try and save batteries. So for me, the performance overview overlay level is important. So I have it on 1, which tells me the frames per second. If you go to 2, it tells you more like the GPU percentage, CPU, the battery, the drain, and stuff like that. And you can go further and further and further and get more information if you want. I mean, that just obscures the screen, so I don't know how anybody plays with that, but it does tell you more information. I go for that to track what the frame per second is. The reason I go for that is because then what I can do is I can then mess with some of these other things. So for example here, I can change the frame rate. So the Steam Deck will force a frame rate limit, which will save battery. I mean, I got 60 frames per second here. If Cyberpunk's going to run at 30 frames per second, I might as well drop it down to 30 to save it. And then what I can do is change the screen refresh rate. Again, the screen refresh rate doesn't go all the way down to 30, but you can drop it down to 40, which I think is really cool. Again, it's going to save battery. You can have this as like a system-wide thing, or you can have it game profile specifically for Cyberpunk. Again, there's loads more settings you can mess around with. Again, like I said, it's like a PC, so you've got to mess around. So let me show you a bit of Cyberpunk in action. And here we go, Cyberpunk running on the Steam Deck. I'm in quite a busy little area here, so I expect the frame rate to drop a bit. But see how smooth it is? I mean, I cannot believe that the Steam Deck's capable of running Cyberpunk of all games. And the settings are pretty high. The Steam Deck settings are certainly not the lowest by a country mile. But here we go, as you can see, there we go. Cyberpunk running on the Steam Deck. It is amazing. I've been playing some Yakuza 0, 60 frames per second. I know The Witcher 3 will run at 60 frames per second on relatively high settings. In fact, I think I managed to get it running on ultra, or it was high, one of the two. Amazing, absolutely amazing. It genuinely blows me away what this is capable of. However, I'm going to be honest with you, I have had a couple of issues. I'm always transparent in my reviews or my first impressions or whatever you want to say. I have had a few crashes on this. Is with the Yakuza 0. I've looked online. It may be an issue with the game itself, but I seem to have solved it. When I was trying to run it on ultra settings, the highest on everything, it seemed to crash every now and then. I dropped it down to high and it seemed to resolve it. So my biggest advice is, if you're downloading games for this, go online, check what the settings people recommend and try them out. Honestly, you know, it crashed. Yeah, it was absolutely fine. It happened. I think I had one crash with Cyberpunk as well, but I think that had something to do with the fact I was trying to load and play Cyberpunk whilst the system was trying to update. I hadn't told it to update, but it was downloading it anyway. So you will get some crashes, you will get some issues. I've had more crashes and issues than I have with the Switch, but that, you know, comes hand in hand with having such a more powerful console that is so much more customizable. The other thing I will say is you really do need to mess around with those graphic settings if you want to be trying to save your battery here. The battery can go quite quickly, less than 2 hours if you've got some games on really high settings, but it comes with time and experience. The better you are with it, the more it's likely to be able to extend that battery life. Do you really need 60 frames per second? Can you get away with 40 frames per second? I would argue you can. It's just something you'll need to mess around with. However, to save your battery, you're going to need a good power bank. Stick around. I mean, in the next week or so, I'm going to do a review of a really good power bank that I recommend from Anker. It's got a 45 watt output, so it will charge this at the maximum speed that it possibly can do. Another review that's coming out shortly is going to be for this lovely little treat. It is an Anker USB-C hub. One of the nice things it has is it's got an Ethernet port. Yes, this will support Ethernet, so if you plug it in and plug an Ethernet port in, it will support it. You're probably best off powering it, but again, I'll do a proper review. The one thing you can do is if you plug this in, you should be able to plug a HDMI cable to a TV to output the Steam Deck to a TV or a monitor. Again, I'll show you all that coming up. I've got so many Steam Deck videos coming up, accessories, tips, tricks, and things like that, so please do subscribe if you want to find out more. So I'm going to leave the review here. It's been running way too long anyway. Hopefully giving you my first impressions. Overall, I'm really pleased with the device. I am just as excited now as when I first got it. You've just got to be careful of a few crashes, getting the graphic settings. I am by no means an amazing PC person. I'm learning as we go along, so I'm getting better and better performance each time with better and better battery life. But you're going to have to put that time in if you're going to get a Steam Deck. I would highly recommend this. If you're thinking about buying it, I would reserve it because it doesn't come quickly. It's not like you can just go into Game or whatever and buy one. You're going to need to reserve it through Steam, and it will take a while to get there. So if you're on the fence, I would say reserve it. I don't think it's worth going for the Mega Deluxe, 500 quid version. Just get yourself a couple of good SD cards to plug in to expand that memory. The bottom of the range, the normal 64 gig will be good enough for you. There is no way I've answered each and every question you could possibly have in the wide world, so if you've got any questions, please post them in the comment section below. I will reply to everybody. If you've got any questions whatsoever, let me know. I'll give you my honest opinions, and I will try anything and let you know whether it works or whether it doesn't work. If you enjoyed the video, give it a cheeky thumbs up. That means more people can see it. And I think, if you enjoyed this video, please press the subscribe button. 1, it will personally mean the world to me. 2, it will move me closer to that cheeky 1,000 I'm looking to get. But most importantly, you just don't want to miss out any of this future Steam Deck information and videos and tricks and tips and all these sort of things. So press the subscribe button. It'll be great. With that in mind, I'm going to leave it there. You know what I'm going to say. Look after yourselves. Take care of the people around you. And most importantly, stay out of trouble.